We're just a couple months away from hitting the year-and-a-half mark since the PS4 and Xbox One first came out, with the Wii U basically having an extra year on top of that. And in that time, a lot of things have changed that might change your idea about which system is right for you. You know, we've had more exclusive game releases, system updates, new functionalities, price drops, bundles, temporary sales, all kinds of stuff that might change your idea about which system is just right for you. What's up Internet, Kevin here, and I just want to bring you guys a little update on the current state of the 8th generation of gaming consoles. And before we start talking about the nitty-gritty of what's different about each system and which one might be right for you, let's look at how they've all been performing so far. Now, looking at just hard sales at the end of last month, the PS4 is sitting at the top in worldwide sales with 20.2 million units sold. Xbox One is in second place with 11.6 million, and the Wii U in third with 9.3. Now, there's a few reasons for why there's such a big disparity outside of just, which one people tend to like more. Looking at the Wii U first, Wii U's always been in this kind of awkward place since the last generation as far as Nintendo goes, because there's this whole idea where a lot of people treat the Wii as a secondary system because they view it as being the more kiddie option. It's one meant more for families. And because the Wii U isn't that much cheaper than the other two systems like the Wii was, it just hasn't been selling as strongly. And not only that though, but while it's been out a whole extra year, there really wasn't a whole lot going on that first year. We didn't see a lot of games that people were super excited for, which did change this past year, and the Wii U saw a much bigger boom in sales during the last quarter of 2014, thanks to things like Mario Kart 8 and Super Smash Bros. Coming out. Meanwhile, for PS4 and Xbox One, well, there's a few reasons for that. First off, to kind of defend Xbox a little bit, the PS4 has been available in more regions and for longer in many of them, with the exception of China, where the Xbox One's been out for about half a year, while the PS4 is just about to come out this month. Now, despite that fact, even though it's been available more places, 8 million units is a really appreciable difference in sales, and it's more than just the fact that it's available more places, because even if you look at individual countries, the PS4 has been outselling, and there's a few reasons why. First off, back when the Xbox One was first coming out, it was released at a whole $100 higher than the PS4 because you had to get it in a bundle with a Kinect, which thankfully now there's a Kinect-less bundle where you're paying the same price you would for a PS4, which is $400. Meanwhile, there's also the fact that during the Xbox One launch, there was a whole lot of confusion about what kind of DRM restrictions it was going to have. Several different Microsoft employees were saying different things, no one really knew what was going on, and it just made a lot of people angry. And in the end, Microsoft did pull back a lot of those restrictions, but the damage was already done to the reputation and it really hurt those initial sales. Now, once that calmed down and healed up, another problem came up where it became really clear that between the two systems, PS4 and Xbox One, the PS4 is definitely the more powerful system because we're seeing multi-platform games released on both of them where the PS4 version had 1080p resolution and the Xbox One version was sitting at 720p. So for people that were debating which system to get for those big multi-platform titles, well, PS4 started getting a big win. So yeah, just looking at how they've so far performed, the PS4 has been the more popular system. Not necessarily the better system for you personally, but it's the one that more people have gravitated towards. So let's start looking at what each system now has to offer you. Now, since they've been released, there have been a lot of patches for each system, which have helped to close some of the gaps and differences between them and create new ones. Both the Xbox One and PS4 can do things like take screenshots, record gameplay to upload, or just live stream to Twitch, but there's a few areas where they have started to divert. First off, the Xbox One, which has shown a much heavier emphasis on media and social apps. All four systems offer the core media apps of YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Instant Video, but overall the Xbox One does have a greater array of additional pay-per-view programs, so if you're really looking for a specific movie or TV show you want to watch and rent, Xbox One is going to more likely have that for you. As far as social options go, right at launch the Xbox One is the only system to offer Skype, but it also now has the option to do friend suggestions, so if there's a gamer that all of your gaming buddies have in common that you haven't added yet, it might be a friend of yours and Xbox One's going to recommend it to you. So overall they've put a much heavier emphasis on social functions and using it as an overall multimedia device. The PS4 on the other hand has been focusing a lot more on gaming functionalities. Back at launch they had that whole thing where you could use the PS Vita to play PS4 games remotely as long as you were nearby the PS4. But more recently there's been a new function that's really awesome, though still a little rough around the edges, and that's SharePlay. The idea behind SharePlay is that if two people own a PS4 and one of them has a game that the other one wants to try, well, you can remotely log into a session where you're basically pretending like you're playing a game locally. You can switch off who's actively playing the game, or if the game has some kind of local co-op option, you can play the game together, provided, depending on the situation, either one of you or both of you has to have a PlayStation Plus account. Now, as I said, a little rough around the edges still, it's not perfect. The person that's remotely playing is going to experience a little bit of lag, which, depending on the game, is either bearable or a death sentence. And for whatever whatever reason, share play sessions only last 60 minutes apiece. So if you're trying to do a more extended playtime session with your buddy, you're gonna have to constantly reset play share every hour, which will just start to wear thin. Now, meanwhile, the Wii U, while it's been getting a lot of stability updates, really hasn't gotten that many interesting new functionalities. You know, they've been giving you ways to reorganize folders and, better ways to use a quick start menu on the Wii U, but overall it basically offers the same functions we saw right at the start, like being able to use the Wii U tablet to play certain games directly instead of having to use the TV screen, or having television integration. Now, one other thing I want to mention about the systems themselves is the fact that while the PS4 and Xbox One both require you to have a paid membership to play games online, both of those memberships now come with free monthly games. Now, on average, the PS4 has been getting more free games every month, usually between 2 and 3, while the Xbox One gets about 1 or 2. But if you look at individual titles, there is an occasional difference in value. The PS4 is almost always different digital or indie titles that are 15 to 20 bucks, maybe scraping at 30, while the Xbox One occasionally has offered games that are normally 40 or even 60 bucks. As an example, this month they're giving Rayman Legends, which is a game that when it was launched was 60 bucks, and even now costs 40 bucks to get digitally. So while the PS4 has given more games overall, value-wise, it kind of balances out. Now, speaking of free games, this is really the one thing I've always emphasized about which system is right for you. What exclusive titles each system has to offer, as well as what titles your friends are interested in, so you can make sure you all get the same system to play together. Now, I can't, of course, help you with which system your friends bought, but I can let you know about what games are exclusive to which one, starting with the Wii U, because the Wii U is kind of the odd man out. In many ways, the Wii U has the largest number of exclusives that are only for it, and honestly, in my opinion, are some of the best games, but it also misses out on a lot of other games that are available on basically everything else. There's a large number of multi-platform titles that don't make their way to the Wii U because it's just a weaker system than the other two. We're talking about some of the biggest sellers of last year, like Destiny, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor. But in the meantime, there's still a lot of really strong exclusives that are only for the Wii U. Like I said, last year was one of their strongest. We finally got Mario Kart 8 and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, both of which are excellent games, along with other titles like Hyrule Warriors, Bayonetta 2, Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, lots of really strong exclusives that not only have been a little more family-friendly, but also offer some of the best local multiplayer options out of any of the systems. I've owned all 3 systems since they've each been launched, and as far as what I've used the most with friends, the Wii U's come up a lot more because there's more options for games we can play together as a group and not just have to do things online separately. Now, as for the PS4 and Xbox One, like I said, there's a lot of multi-platform games that are available to both of them and not the Wii U. But also, like I said earlier, on average, the PS4 version is the better looking version, so that is a point in their favor. Now, looking at games that are exclusive to them, there's basically 3 big titles for each that stand out to me that have been released so far. On the Xbox One, we had Dead Rising 3 at launch, which is a fantastic game, though it did get ported to PC later. Titanfall, which was a huge boost for Xbox One sales, also though, once again, available on PC as well. And then the last, and in some ways the least game, despite my wishing, Sunset Overdrive, which is completely exclusive to Xbox One and is, in my opinion, a great game, but also just didn't sell very well. It's barely even scrapped 500,000 sales, which isn't a great sign for how long it's been out. Meanwhile, on the PS4, we had Killzone at launch, which a lot of people picked up because it was the one big game right away for PS4, but honestly, kind of mediocre. Later on, early last year, we got Infamous Second Son, which is a great game, completely exclusive for PS4, and honestly one of my favorite games of the new generation of consoles. And last, but definitely least, at least in my opinion, is The Order 1886, which just came out and has been selling quite well, but got really scathing response from a lot of reviewers, myself included, because while it is a very pretty game, what content is there and how much there is just isn't really worth paying 60 bucks for. Now, of course, those are just the big AAA titles that each system has been pushing. There's been a lot of indie and digital titles as well. They each have their own little handful. The Wii U's got Shovel Knight, which is a great retro-style platformer. The Xbox One just got Ori and the Blind Forest, which I've been playing and loving. And back at launch, it had Killer Instinct, which is a great return to an old-school fighter. But as far as indie and digital games go, I have to give the win to PS4 because it just has the largest number of them. Now, once again, a lot of them are on PC as well, but if you're a pure console gamer, then the PS4 is going to offer some of the strongest indie titles to come out in the past couple of years, including stuff like Transistor, Mercenary Kings, Rogue Legacy, Don't Starve, and many, many more, a lot of which have been free games on the PlayStation Plus membership. So for AAA games, they all have their wins. Personally, I like the Wii U the most, but there's a lot of multi-platform games it misses out on that the PS4 and Xbox One both get. And when it comes to indie titles, PS4 just wins hands down for me. Now, of course, each system has only been around for about a year and a half. I mean, the Wii U's had an extra year on top of that, but it was a really slow year that basically just doesn't count. So they're all still really early in their life cycles, and there's a lot more games coming out that can change your opinion about which one you want. So let's take a look at some of the biggest ones to come out later this year. Starting off with the Wii U again, we have Mario Party 10 later this month. In May, we've got Splatoon, which is Nintendo's attempt to do a competitive team versus team game, except instead of filling each other with bullets, you're just covering walls with paint. And sometime this year, we're going to get Xenoblade Chronicles X for those of you that are JRPG fans, a new Star Fox game, which sounds like it's going to be a digital title, but it's still Star Fox. And then hopefully, we'll get the new Legend of Zelda sometime this year, although given series history, I really wouldn't be that surprised if it ends up getting pushed back to 2016. Meanwhile, over on the PS4, we're getting Bloodborne at the end of this month, which if you're a fan of the Soul series, is definitely something you might be getting excited about. Over the summer, we're getting Until Dawn, which isn't a Quantic Dream game, but looks a lot like one. We're probably going to see a debate again about what counts as an actual video game or not, because it's almost like an interactive movie, but it could still be really fun, and it'll be a nice foray into the slasher film style. And sometime this year, we're going to get one of the games that made the biggest ripple back at last year's E3, No Man's Sky, which is an indie title for the PS4. It will be available on PC later, but it's a space simulator with a great art aesthetic that promises that you're going to be able to explore an entire universe. Now, this is one of those games where you get really excited watching the previews, but there's always that little voice in the back of your head going, oh, I hope it delivers, because if it doesn't, it's going to be really disappointing. And we just won't know until it launches, but it's definitely one to get excited for. Also, taking a quick look at early 2016, we are going to get a new Uncharted game for the PS4, and if you're a fighting game fan, you're basically being forced to lean towards PS4 over Xbox One, because Street Fighter V is going to be a PS4 exclusive. Now, last up are upcoming Xbox One games, and there's a reason I saved this one for last, because I feel like Microsoft might actually have the biggest ace in the hole for this upcoming holiday season, at least as far as pure sales go. Sometime this year, we're going to get Fable Legends, which initially I was excited about, but then we found out it's free to play, which doesn't always mean free to play. So depending on how that works out at launch, maybe I'll be excited and like it, maybe not, we'll find out. We've also got Quantum Break sometime this year, which was one of the first games we found out about for the Xbox One, and still know almost next to nothing about. We've heard it's going to be a third-person shooter, there'll be this kind of in-game TV integration thing, and it's going to have time control elements, but it's all been really vague, so that's another title that might be worth getting excited about, we still don't know a ton about. But then there's the one huge game that Microsoft has up its sleeve, and that's Halo 5 Guardians. Love the series, hate the series, gone in waves with it with each entry. You can't deny that Halo is the largest exclusive that Microsoft has ever had for each of their systems. And finally getting a new one for the Xbox One could do wonders for the system sales. I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of gamers out there that haven't bought an Xbox One yet, but are planning to pick one up the day Halo 5 comes out, because that's the one title they've been waiting on this whole time. Now, looking a little farther in the future for Xbox One, there are a couple other exclusives worth noting. They announced both Scalebound and Phantom Dust last year, which we got really cool looking trailers for, but who knows how the actual games will turn out just yet. And they have announced that a new Gears of War game is in the works, but given what a pile of crap Judgment was, who knows how this one will turn out. So there you guys have it, all the stuff that at least I think you need to know when considering which system to get. Now I know that was a lot of information back to back to back, so let's just do a quick little Cliff Notes recap. The Wii U offers some of the best local multiplayer options, as well as some of the strongest exclusives that are available only on it, nowhere else. But at the same time, it's going to have the worst graphics, and you're missing out on a ton of multi-platform titles that are available on every other system. Xbox One is going to offer some of the best shooters that have been released so far, like Titanfall, and some of the best upcoming ones, like Halo and Gears of War, as well as giving you the best media and social apps to choose from. Last but definitely not least is the PS4, which is going to give you the largest array of indie titles, the best graphics, and some really solid exclusive games that are once again only available on PS4 and nowhere else. Now, which of those systems is right for you is completely up to your own mind. If you want my advice though, or at least my opinion on what I would do if I didn't own them all already, well, the order I would go depends on one important factor. If you're a PC gamer, then the Wii U is actually really worth grabbing first, because it's going to offer the most different games that you're not going to get on PC. After that, go for the PS4 or Xbox One, just depending on which exclusives jump out at you more. Now, if you're not a PC gamer and you're going to go pure console no matter what, grab the PS4 first. There's a ton of great indie titles worth grabbing, it's going to give you the best looking multi-platform games, and it has some great exclusives. After that, grab the Wii U to diversify your options a lot more, and if you gotta get all three of them, pick up the Xbox One last so you can get what exclusives you're missing out on. Now, whether or not that order is right for you is for you to decide, but that's my personal recommendation. Now, as always guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to let me know by hitting that thumbs up button, as well as subscribing if you haven't yet. I've got a bunch more vids planned for later this month, and you're not going to want to miss them. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Kevin Kenson if you want to talk any gaming. I'll see you guys soon with more content, but until then, I'm Kevin Kenson, and I'll see you later.